The Tony Farina Report is brought to you by West Her Automotive. West Her cares. And Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel off exit 48 in the New York State Thruway. BataviaDownsGaming.com.
Welcome back to The Big Picture. The issue of Native American names and images used by schools, sports teams, and mascots has been the subject of increasing public controversy in the U.S. and Western New York. Tony Farina has more in his report.
Hello, and welcome to the Tony Farina Report on the Big Picture Show here on WBBZ-TV. I'm joined today by a terrific champion for Native rights, John Kane, who's a Mohawk who lives on the Seneca Nation.
Yeah, on Cattaraugus territory.
In Cattaraugus. And he's been a very major figure in a lot of changes in the way Indigenous people are treated in this state. And most recently, as a member of the advisory board for the state on Indigenous rights, right?
Well, Indigenous Mascot Advisory Council.
Indigenous Mascot Advisory Council. Now, I think it was Einstein who once said, and he's a smart guy, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Well, you're the personification of that effort. A lot of what you've done has led to changes, and they're real changes. Tell us what's happened recently, John, with that council and with the state and Commissioner Rosa Park.
Rosa, just Rosa.
Commissioner Rosa has done.
Well,
and you're on her council.
Yeah, I'm on the advisory council to the New York State Education Department. And just a couple of weeks ago, the Board of Regents voted unanimously to take Dr. Rosa's ban that she had issued back in November and make it permanent. They voted unanimously to approve not just the ban, but the rules associated with it. So that's kind of the final leg of—
And they voted to ban what?
The use of Native mascots by public schools. So, and there's probably still, there's about 130 schools impacted by this ban. That's how many schools, or school districts and individual schools have dug in since the commissioner 20 years ago had told schools to get rid of these Native mascots.
Now they have to do it, don't they?
Yeah, 20 years ago when Commissioner Mills issued his memorandum, they had to, he told them that they had to do it in a time that was practical. He didn't mean 21 years. So now they have to get it done. By the end of this school year, all schools with Native mascots have to issue a resolution passed by the Board of Education retiring their mascot and laying out a plan to get rid of that mascot. They have by the end of the 24-25 school year to have completely eliminated all of the imagery and the names associated with uniforms, football fields, gymnasiums, and all of that.
And why is this important, John? Why is this important?
Well, Native people are the only ones used this way. We're the only people that are used as in this dehumanizing fashion. We are
the warriors, the Indians, that sort of thing.
Warriors, Indians, savages, raiders, tomahawks, chiefs, you name it. And what happens is you're teaching every year another class of students to actually take that identity and claim it as their own. And then now we've got alumni who are 30, 40, 50 years out of high school who still say, well, I'm an Indian, I've always been an Indian, I'm going to be that. No, you're not. And that's part of the issue. So we have a miseducation that goes on where kids are taught that we are like these relics of the past, because all of the imageries are like 18th century depictions of who white people think we are. And so we're treated as if we're no longer exist. The stereotypes are, well, stereotypes are wrong anyway. To cast a people in stereotypes is, frankly, it's discriminatory. It's racist. But most of the stereotypes are false. I mean, for many, many years, all of these schools used the typical Hollywood Plains Indian headdress profile for their mascots. Now some have changed and updated it to at least an Eastern Woodlands depiction of an 18th century native.
So finally now in 2023, and I know you were very instrumental, and you work with Commissioner Rosa to help get this done.
Well, what happened is I took on my old high school. My old high school dug in. I got the school board to vote to retire it.
What was your old high school?
My old high school was Cambridge, New York, on the eastern part of the state. And so Cambridge Central School.
What was the mascot?
They were the Indians. And I graduated from that school back in 1978. I went back to my school and said, look, you guys got to get rid of this. And I made my case both on 2 separate board meetings. In the end, they voted at the end of the 2021 school year to retire it. Then they seated 2 new board members and rescinded that resolution. That caused some of the families, and I worked with them, to file a 310 petition with the New York State Department of Education and ask that the commissioner order the school to retire the mascots in spite of the actions of this board. She ruled that the board had acted arbitrarily and capriciously and that they had abused their discretionary authority. At that point, I said, well, Dr. Rosa, if you can do it to one school, you can do it to all of them. And so I started my own campaign to get the New York State Department of Education to issue a statewide ban. And look, and part of the thing is, I don't get along necessarily with the politics of New York State, not the governor, not the legislature. So the idea that I could actually use an apolitical agency like the Education Department, it was the best path for me to pursue, and ultimately we got it done. New York State is the most significant state, the biggest and most populated state in the United States to do this.
Well, you were able to, and I know you a long time. You have a strong voice and a strong presence for issues that you believe in. And I'm sure that persistence on your part helped develop your relationship with Commissioner Rosa.
Well, she called me personally to ask me to sit on this board. So, and I was glad that she did that because I didn't want anybody to turn this into a woke, liberal, elite, agenda being pushed by politicians. Look, this was an apolitical agency, and this was driven by Native voices, and everything that I submitted to both Cambridge Central School and ultimately to the Department of Education was about what Native voices have said about this, what every nation, every organization, including what every child development expert and psychological association, even the New York State Association of School Psychologists have supported a ban. So now we have one.
Well, you've done something remarkable here, John. And true to Einstein's words, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And you've effected some change here with your help. And I'm sure, and I hope, the Native people appreciate what you've done.
Well, enough people know the role that I played on this, but you know what? Couldn't have done it without some dedicated families back in Cambridge. I couldn't have done it without a very cooperative commissioner of education, and frankly, couldn't have done it without the Board of Regents voting unanimously to pass this ban.
What's next on your agenda, John? John Kane.
Well, I'm working on the Canadian side to do a 1-hour news broadcast.
I'd love to see that.
And so that'll come later on, probably in the summer.
TV?
It'll be on Canadian TV, but it's also will be available, internationally. So, and of course, I'm still working my show in New York and in Washington. I do plan to do a bit of a speaking tour at some of the HBCUs down south and other places. So I'm staying busy, and the whole thing is to try to educate people about who we are. And unlike the mascots, we need to tell people that we're still here and that we're still relevant.
And I know it's not just affecting change for you, it's also to leave a legacy for people to hopefully follow and take up the causes that are there. And there are many. Well,
the one thing I will say is I didn't follow the path that is oftentimes laid down in front of us to get something done. I went after my school. We did this with the Department of Education, but I think the legacy should be that you can affect change, and you have to be persistent, but you also have to do your homework. You have to know what the subject matter is, and you got to be able to speak intelligently about it, and you almost have to take the emotion out of it. Yeah, I'm passionate about this, but I never went in there and say, in my opinion, this is offensive. I just stated the facts as they were laid out.
Well, the thing that always impressed me about you, back when we did some things on Channel 2, was that you were always well informed. And nothing's changed on that score.
Well, and that's a moving target. You have to stay very aware of what's going on.
You got to stay on top of a lot of things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, John Kane, thank you very much. Congratulations on your success. And I know you'll have many more. And we look forward to see what happens in Canada. We'll have you back on the show in the near future.
That sounds good.
John Kane, thank you.
Thanks, Tony, for having me.
Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again soon on the Tony Farina Report.
Thanks, Tony, for that report. This weekend also marks the somber one-year anniversary of the tragic racist shooting at the Tops Market on Jefferson in East Buffalo. As we end this edition of The Big Picture, we offer a moment of silence for the victims as our community remembers those we lost and love. I'm Judge Penny Wolfgang. Thank you for watching The Big Picture.